We have here a 2002 Carrera 4S. The customer complaint is they cannot get gasoline in the car. They went to 3 different gas stations. The reserve light was on. They started getting really nervous and they just drove the car in and they said, I can't get gas in the car. I've had this happen a couple times. There's a couple things online you can read. There's lots of data on that E6 fuse everybody talks about, and we're gonna go over that real quick. That was not the problem with this car. Let's just jump right into it. This is the filler neck out of this car. This is just what comes right out here, and then it goes all the way down into here into the tank. There was a revision because there's a new and an old. This is the new one. It has something to do with the splashback valve. Okay, so here is the revised splashback valve. On the old one, it has something a little bit different. You cannot manipulate it with your finger like that, but there's like a valve inside here, and this is the splashback valve. We replaced this component because we were having a problem with the canister shutoff valve, which is this guy right here. So I'm gonna go over all these different components. Well, you can see how this gas cap works. What's going to happen is when you tighten the gas cap, see right here, there's a little tiny button switch, and the edge of the cap, as you tighten it down, is going to push on that switch. Okay, so when that gets pushed down, these valves open. When you remove the gas cap to fill the tank, it closes this valve, and what this does is this goes to the charcoal canister. So it's the charcoal canister close valve. But it still needs to be able to vent to get the fuel in. So you're putting a liquid mass into the tank, and that's the space that is displacing of air needs to leave the tank. So if that air can't leave the tank, you're gonna have major backsplash. This car, I've got I took some stills. This picture right here shows, I was at the gas station. This got like 2 or 3 tenths of a gallon, that's it. Maybe $2 worth of fuel. We're in California, so our gas prices are high. And it splashed back, not just like a little bit, like it was like splashing out of the body, running out of this filler neck. That's how much gasoline was getting trapped in here and then coming back out. The E6 fuse, what the E6 fuse does, when the gasoline nozzle goes in and hits this little flap right here that everybody has, it hits this little magnetic reed switch. This magnetic reed switch operates 2 things on the car. So if you're trying to put gas in the car with the battery disconnected, lots of people were talking about this online, if their battery disconnected and they're trying to add fuel with a gas can, it won't work because it won't open the solenoid that is right up in this area. We'll show you here. It opens like a liquid canister, separate of the charcoal canister that's back here behind the front tire. Also, what's critical that we found out, same time it opens the solenoid down here for the liquid fuel canister, it also opens this vent valve. This vent valve is very difficult to see. This valve is located right here. This is a Carrera 4. The gas tank is different than a Carrera 2, totally different than a Carrera 2. Now the E6 fuse operates this and the other solenoid. That's what those 2 things do. The E6 fuse was good, this valve was bad. So we bench tested this and we applied power to it after we removed it from the tank. We were able to get this one out without taking the front diff out and without taking the gas tank down, but it was a lot of work and we probably just should have pulled the front diff out and the gas tank. Okay, so if you guys are already to this part, you have the wheelhouse out. You can see right over here is our charcoal canister. We have the fuel filler pipe removed on this car. That valve that was bad is at the end of this hose. So just to identify it, this little blue check valve, so this is gonna go all the way up inside there, and then this blue vent lives like right about here. So what we're doing is we're gonna feed this vent pipe back up to the top of the gasoline tank. There is no access to that vent pipe through the front trunk of the car. It's just all steel frame around it. Some people were talking about like cutting the steel frame out online. I wouldn't do that. So we're not going to do that. But this is the only way to access it while it's all still in the car. Daniel, where does this go?
This goes to the canister.
The charcoal canister?
And this goes up to the filler neck.
Okay, so this is gonna go get clipped onto the filler neck after the filler neck gets installed. And then this goes to the charcoal canister, which is back up in here. That valve gets attached immediately to the top of the rollover valve that's inside the tank. The Carrera 4 gasoline tank and the Carrera 2 tank are completely different. There's a TSB that also talks about the fuel tank line, the fuel pump lines getting wrapped around the splashback valve, okay? And so that can be a problem. That's on the Carrera 2 only. It cannot come into contact with the Carrera 4 tank. This is only like half the filler pipe length. Then there's an entire length about this long inside a Carrera 4 tank that's the rest of the filler pipe. A Carrera 2 does not have it. A Carrera 2 only has what appears to be like a 6-inch internal filler pipe, and it dumps right on top of the fuel pump. The fuel pump hoses get wrapped up in this, and then they cause the same problem that this owner had, but totally different car. That can't happen on a Carrera 4. We went over all the main things that'll cause the fuel to backwash up the filler pipe. The most common is the E6 fuse pops. Somebody usually puts like an aftermarket accessory in the car, like maybe a cell phone charger or whatever, clipped into that one wire, and then it pops a fuse. Whatever, no big deal. You put a fuse in it, it's fixed. When that happens, you have two things that don't open. You have the solenoid that's up here in the fender up here, and then you have that vent valve that's like basically that vent is straight down from right here. So fuel, battery, fuel pump, and then you come maybe 6 inches over, and that's where it is, and you cannot access it from the top. It's only getting access from the bottom through some really small stuff. So that's pretty much it. If those two things are opening, then you're going to get the amount of fuel that you're putting in. The air is going to displace out of the tank, and fuel will flow into the tank. Without that vent opening, the fuel won't flow into the tank. It'll just come washing back up a lot faster than you think. When it happens, it like kind of will spray back at you if you're not careful. We've got the new valve in the top of the tank above the rollover, the tank vent valve. This is duplicating the fuel nozzle from the gas station. And when we insert this, you can hear something clicking. So you're going to hear two things clicking. It's kind of difficult to identify which things are clicking because there's one thing right here. You can actually grab it with the wheelhouse off. You can actually grab it and you can duplicate it clicking. You can feel it click. The other one, this car has an aftermarket stereo system, so there's a bunch of stereo equipment in this car. So it's kind of tricky. Like if you look underneath here, there's like all these crossovers and amps and all kinds of crazy stuff, right? So it's underneath all that, underneath the steel chassis, you can kind of hear something right here. So you can hear that. The E6 fuse controls both of those components. So now the question is, can we put gas in it? So we're going to start pouring gas in it. Right around the 0.2 of a gallon mark is where we would have some major problems. It would just start spitting gas back out of this nozzle. And it is just flowing and flowing and flowing. So what it would do is it would fill the fill pipe up solid and then back up the fill pipe. So now I'm confident that I've got this fill pipe, if it still had a problem, this fill pipe would be completely full right now, and it would be overflowing. So I probably got about a gallon roughly into it right now, roughly a gallon. And it's just flowing. The fuel's going right down. This car does not have a problem anymore. This car is fixed. Got a new valve and a new hose. That little short hose that you saw earlier, it's a 3-inch long hose. Make sure you get a new 3-inch long hose. I believe it's this part number right here. It has 2 different diameters on it. So you got to get it's just like it's like a 10 millimeter and 11 millimeter. This one's done. If you have any questions about your 911 not fueling, give me a call.